Thank you so much. I prefer to sit here because I'm not really in front of me. Couldn't take it to my laptop. That tells you of how well prepared I am for this occasion. Right. Thank you so much, Shiju, for sending me the book, and I have to confess that I've had a month, but I've not yet managed to read it for far less, 3 times over. So what I could say about the book would be the nature of very broad remarks, which looks at the kind of, I have retained the book for future study, much greater detail, and this is a very valuable book. I must commend you for doing this, particularly since it concerns the state that I come from, you come from, and I think a lot of the audience also comes from. And it refers to 3 very important episodes in its recent past. I mean, these are not episodes that will feature in a standard work of history, but they have a bearing on how we deal with the situation as it's emerging in this social context. So the acronym that I asked for an expansion was not PES, it was PEST, and I found that rather engaging because it stands for Public Engagement in Science and Technology. PEST is rather kind of catchy acronym to use. The field itself is a forest of acronyms, and I'm not a specialist in the field. But fortunately, that particular confusion was sorted out rather early in the book when I figured out that the purpose was what is called the risk model and public deliberations of science in the context of emergent risk politics. That's a fairly clearly stated objective, and that enables you to kind of negotiate the rest of the book with a fairly clear perspective. But the point that arose in my mind was about the origins of the risk, and the origins of the risk obviously are again in the domain of science and technology. So is this a way of making a case that the risks associated with the adaptation of modern S&T into contexts where it is seen, in at least the early phase, as an alien force, the risks associated with that, these can be mitigated by the same agency. So, that's an ongoing debate which still has no resolution. You'll find very passionate viewpoints on both sides of this particular point. Of course, then the nature of the beast is, has been studied over the years through public attitudinal surveys, which spoke of a gap in communication and proposed a means of bridging these through a larger volume and quality of data. There was, in some senses, seemed to be a deficiency in the manner in which the virtues, and it was assumed that these were unqualified virtues of the scientific way of life and the benefits that S&T, the application of S&T could bring to common life. There was a deficiency in the way that this was being communicated, and that the challenge was simply to improve on that through higher quality and better and volume of data. Now, Shiju refers to this as a diffusionist, interventionist model. I am not a specialist in this, but in the field of media studies where I come from, this is often referred to as the transmission model. That the point at issue here is who says what to whom, with what purpose, and with what effect. So you can at every stage of that progression, who, what, with what intent, and with what effect, you can condition how this progression works and produce the optimal effects that you seek. Again, the point that you make is that there's an assumption of a clear separation of truth and power here. That truth in some way is administered with a neutral objective, and truth can be identified as something that is independent of who wields power in society. I would pause at that point and ask whether this is, I mean, not that he upholds this as a clear distinction, but I would pause at that point and ask whether it's valuable to explore the nature of the relationship between the two, since power is assumed to rest with the people. And truth is something that is, it's visible in the clear light of day to anybody who cares to look at it with clear eyes. It's just that, you don't have that clear pair of lenses, and everybody is capable of acquiring that perspective, which makes truth available to all. And it is in some senses the subscription to a common notion of what is true and what is just and so on, which makes a people a people. So, you share certain values, you share certain ways of looking at things. But of course, you know at once that there are serious problems here, because, to just quote one example, the second paragraph of the US Declaration of Independence says that it's a self-evident truth that all men are created equal. So, absolutely categorical assertion on the basis of which you build the whole polity. But, you build it on foundations of inequality and injustice, and, which are still not yet purged out of the system. If at all, they're getting, in some senses, much more acute. You come forward many years, century and a half, and you have the aftermath of World War II, industrial scale warfare, fueled, in which S&T plays, of course, a major role in propelling the war effort on all sides. And the kind of landmark statement that the world community agrees to at the end of it, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And it begins with the assertion that equality and rights belongs to everybody, and this emanates from equal endowment of rationality. It is a self-evident truth that all mankind possesses that element of rational thinking, which makes them all equally entitled to the rights as laid down in that charter. Now, this happens curiously at the same time that we have from the Frankfurt School, Max Horkheimer writing a book titled The Eclipse of Reason. And Horkheimer's point is very simple, that the logical positivism that is ostensibly the foundation of the right way of approaching reality, of acquiring a grasp of reality, is very easily prone to slippage into a doctrine of pragmatism. What is true is what is effective. What is true is what produces results. So theory is more, it's about how a plan of doing things. It's about a plan of how certain social objectives are achieved. So truth and power are seamlessly integrated here. And so, that is in a sense the culmination of a quest, the logical positivist quest, to arrive at a perfect methodology that will produce absolute knowledge in every possible context. Finally, it comes down to pragmatism, and who defines what the objective should be, and who defines how these objectives should be met. Again, you are falling back into the nature of the power relations within society when you pose a question that way. So that is by way of the kind of the deeper background to what Shiju has been dealing with in his book. I found the first few chapters very interesting in terms of the methodology and the philosophical foundations of the approach that he's adopted to three particular case studies. And the reference to the Silent Valley, though not the Silent Valley agitation, though not very detailed, is very crucial because it marks in his perspective an important watershed because there was a certain philosophical basis for the public engagement with SNT that this whole incident in Kerala's history illustrated. And he particularly refers to the manner in which the Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad, KSSP, dealt with that question, that intense social debate over whether that project should go ahead or not. And what he says is that its report, which came out after detailed study and consultation, was ultimately based on the principles of cost-benefit analysis. And its ecological view was founded upon a strong belief in science's epistemological prowess in providing solutions to societal problems. Here again I pause and ask whether, ask for a deeper look at this, because cost-benefit analysis is based upon what Martha Nussbaum has referred to as the principle of metricity, that everything can be reduced to some measure, that rational choice theory requires that, that multiple objectives can all be reduced to that common scale by which they can be measured. And there are also two other assumptions which are implicit here. One is singleness, that all situations of choice involve the same metric. So you can have one metric of social welfare and one metric of the social cost to get this overall balance of cost and benefit, which enables you to make the decision. And of course, the objective when these two conditions are fulfilled, both metricity and singleness, is maximization. That society is inherently in pursuit of maximizing some measurable social parameter of welfare. This, of course, is something that Nussbaum has contested very vigorously. She speaks about the qualitative components that are the plurality, the heterogeneity of various kinds of parameters involved in these choices, and how it's impossible to get a common definition. Among truly democratic society, with the diversity of perceptions that you have, you are not likely to get that common definition. So this brings me to a point where I would like to switch the narrative from the S&T, the models of S&T in society, and go to a more familiar terrain for me, which is media, because we are talking about a mediated public sphere and the medialization that I found in this book for the first time, medialization of the social discourse. And let me go back to where we started, which is the transmission model. And obviously, this was the dominant way in which media was studied in the early years meaning early to mid 20th century. And there was a basis for it in the sense that you had broadcasting monopolies, you had government-controlled monopolies, you had the Great War of the World, the two great wars of nation-states, World War I and II, in which the media was very much part of that state effort to shore up public morale and to keep the public focused upon certain objectives. And then later, of course, in more settled times, it became a means through which the state, particularly in newly independent states like India, would promote certain desirable social values like tolerance, liberalism, and so on. So this obviously proved beyond a point to be of no great value, not just because the background conditions changed, not just because state monopolies are getting eroded, but because it never worked in the first place, because that's not how audiences respond to media messages. what has come in its place are two other kinds of approaches, one of which is called the ritualist model, that is the way that society responds, is about sustaining certain agreed meanings within their daily social reproduction. And these supersede whatever the intent of the broadcaster is, whatever the intent of that. So in a sense, if a media narrative about the colored rain is transformed into popular belief that there is extraterrestrial life, maybe there are some compulsions within that social milieu which lead people to want to believe that. It is now becoming more and more what's called a post-truth society, that you believe what you want to believe. I mean, you don't accept the conventional rules of argumentation, of deductive and inductive logic. You don't, because there are certain compulsions that you are called upon to fulfill as part of your daily social engagements, and you want to sustain these in respect for everything else. So that is one way of looking at it. And the other model that has come up, which I find personally to be perhaps the most appropriate and most relevant here, is what's called the receptor model. The receptor model, it talks about the media as a dispenser of multiple meanings, that within the interstices of each media platform, you will find many meanings and many different kinds of intent which play out in the public sphere with different kinds of impacts. So the message as it is received is not the message as it is sent or expressed, and the intent of the entity that sends the message is in this sense immaterial, since the actual outcome in terms of mass impact could be different and diverse. So the attribution and construction of meaning derived from media lies with the receiver. Media messages are always open and polysemic. Polysemic in the sense that they have multiple meanings. So to return to that, the point mentioned earlier about how the certainty of the process of acquisition of knowledge through what we call logical positivist methodologies was transformed seamlessly into a sense of a doctrine of pragmatism, which in a sense also meant that it became a plaything of existing past practice. How do we alter that for something that reflects a more democratic ethos? I think the answers have been given various ways over the years. My personal favorite, the book I regard as the author who I regard as having set down the best template for how that effort should be organized, is Paul Feyerabend, Science in a Free Society, successor volume to his Against Method. Against Method was a kind of passionate denunciation of all efforts to domesticate science within any kind of rigid methodological boundary. There's also something that Horkheimer mentioned in this earlier the book that I earlier referred to, the Eclipse of Reason. And that is about, again, it suggests that we need to get used to accepting pluralities of reason, pluralities of epistemology. And the point that Shiju makes about the 1990s in Kerala and the radical break from mode of public engagement established in the 1980s, which was best represented by the Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad. And he talks about the shift in civic epistemology which occurred in the context of modernization risks in the everyday life of the public. The different manners of perceiving these risks and how they often refer back to the same entity, the science and technology establishment that was engendering those risks, often went beyond that, because they couldn't find satisfactory answers, or for whatever reason. There could be multiple reasons. I will read your book again to see if you've gone into those reasons in any detail. But at this point, all I can say is that they have legitimacy merely by being there. And that legitimacy has to be accommodated by a larger, a broader dialogue. And here what Horkheimer says in this book is fairly relevant. It's brief, and so I'll just read it out. He talks about, the success was key. The application of science and technology has to be assessed against some measure of success. And once truth gains this identification with success, the measure of commerce comes into play. Money is the measure. I'm just paraphrasing, I'm not quoting. And that was for Horkheimer the natural destination of liberalism, which created conformity and social bonding through, quote, the leveling principle of commerce and exchange, which held a liberalistic society together. An industrialized culture would enforce the principle of conformity, which would proclaim itself emancipated from the cult of individual liberty in the rank of an ideal. Lost in the process was any sensitivity to the larger mass of humanity that remained outside the liberal ambience, where different idioms of communication prevailed. So Horkheimer ends with an exhortatory note, urging philosophy to cultivate greater sensitivity to diverse languages and their, quote, muted testimonies, unquote, which carried layers of meaning, embodying thought forms and belief patterns rooted in the evolution of the people who speak it. So finally, I will read the book again, but finally, if the message that emerges is one of epistemological democracy, plurality, rather than bemoaning of the ways in which the public discourse can deviate from the rigid template of the scientific discourse, then I would say that I would be in full agreement with the book. But at this point, I'm not yet come to that. So forgive me, and we can meet up for maybe a month or two and discuss this further in another setting. Thank you so much.